The defense in the Donald Trump hush money trial has rested after like half a day. And okay, wow. The prosecution went on for weeks. Yesterday, I was mistaken. I thought the prosecution had rested at the end of last week, but they rested their case yesterday. Basically said, that's it. Here's our case. Convict or don't, right? Donald Trump's defense team steps up, asks a couple of questions, and then today they're like, we're done. The AP reports defense rests without ex-President Trump taking the witness stand in his New York hush money trial. Okay. Do you want to know how desperate these people are? I'll show you. From MSNBC, take a look at this. How Michael Cohen's past lies make him a more credible witness. And from the New York Times, when Michael Cohen's lies help the case against Trump. What? Holy smokes, ladies and gentlemen. I'll tell you what I see happening. It's a show trial. I'm seeing already a lot of liberals being like, oh yeah, Trump's going to get convicted. And I wouldn't be surprised. This is New York City. I'll give you my prediction. I gave it the other day in the last week, but I'll say it again. They're going to go to, so the jury is now off for like a week or whatever. In closing arguments, they say one step closer to final arguments, the prosecution is going to say something like, you know who this man is based on everything you've heard here in this trial from Michael Cohen and Stormy Daniels. You must convict him. This is your only chance. You know who he is. You know what he's done. You must convict him. The implication, of course, I'm willing to bet the argument the prosecution makes is, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, for the love of all that is holy, just put this man in jail. Even if you don't think he did anything wrong. That's the joke. They're going to say something like, they're going to say, everything that you've learned about Donald Trump from this trial, and you know how bad and how evil he is from this trial. Get it? Right. You do. The media is saying Cohen being a liar, stealing money from Trump, their whole story makes literally no sense. The story they've presented, Cohen's story, makes literally no sense. And now they're saying he's a liar, and that proves it. Remember when the New York Times wrote that article that said critical thinking is dangerous? Don't do it. Well, now you know why. They want to lock Trump up so they can win an election. And there you go. The AP reports Donald Trump's lawyers rested their defense Tuesday without the former president taking the witness stand in the trial, moving the case closer to the moment the jury will begin to decide his fate. Your Honor, the defense rests, Trump lawyer Todd Blanche told the judge following testimony from a former federal prosecutor who had been called to attack the credibility of the prosecution's key witness. The jury was sent home for a week until May 28th, when closing arguments are expected. But the attorneys plan to return later Tuesday to discuss how the judge will instruct jurors on deliberations. Trump, the first former American president to be tried criminally, did not stop to speak as he left the courthouse and ignored a question about why he did not testify. He previously said he wanted to take the witness stand to defend himself against what he claims are politically motivated charges. As he left a news conference with supporters of the former president outside, his son, Trump Jr., defended his father's decision not to testify. There'd be absolutely no reason, no justification to do that whatsoever. Everyone sees it for the sham that it is. After more than 4 weeks of testimony, jurors could begin deliberating as soon as next week to decide whether the former president is guilty of 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. I'll tell you why Trump didn't testify. After what the judge did to Costello, they know if Trump goes on the stand, the judge will try and get Trump in any way imaginable. Do not give them the opportunity. Trump could go up there and they'll say something like, did you instruct Cohen to falsify these records? And Trump would say no. And the judge would then just yell at Trump. They'd ask some ridiculously leading question. You know what it would be like? I'm half kidding, by the way, but the prosecution is going to be like, Mr. President, when did you instruct Michael Cohen to stop falsifying business records? And he'll be like, I never instructed him to do so. And the judge would go, Mr. Trump, answer the question. And Trump would be like, I never instructed him. That is not the question. The question is, when did you stop telling him to falsify business records? Get it? There's no point. Trump goes up there. They're going to give him loaded questions. The judge will allow them all. After the defense rested, Judge Juan Merchan told jurors the court session could run late next Tuesday to accommodate both prosecution and defense closing arguments. The last time the jury will hear from either side. Merchan told jurors he expects his instructions on deliberations will take about an hour, after which they can begin discussing the case, possibly as early as next Wednesday. Until now, they have been told not to discuss the case with anyone outside the court or amongst themselves. Merchan noted that closing arguments would normally follow immediately after the defense rested, but he expects them in this case to take at least a day. And given the impending Memorial Day holiday, there's no way, to do all that's needed before then. I'll see you in a week. Prosecutors have accused Trump of a scheme to bury negative stories to fend off damage to his 2016 presidential campaign. Not a crime. What's the crime here? The charges stem from Trump Organization records in which payments to Cohen were marked as legal expenses. Prosecutors say they were really reimbursements for a $130,000 hush money payment to porn star Stormy Daniels to keep her from going public before the 2016 election. Trump says nothing sexual happened between them, and that's not even material to the case. So the argument is Donald Trump, the CEO, was deep in the bowels of accounts payable, instructing them to pay Michael. And none of this makes sense. Donald Trump told Michael Cohen, don't worry, just invoice the company. We'll pay you. None of it makes sense because Trump is not paying attention to these things. And it's a pure manipulation. Now, what we know from Costello, and you guys know this already, he basically said Cohen had no evidence, could have sold out Trump at a moment to save himself. Cohen admitted to stealing money from Trump. Fact. On the stand under oath. Why would this man not sell out Trump to save himself? He would. It's literally what he is doing. Fascinating. Well, my friends, let's see how the whingers over on the left are taking this. Oh, boy. How Michael Cohen's past lies make him a more credible witness. Are you kidding me? Sure. Maybe the Trump derangement syndrome people on the jury vote to convict because they live in New York and they're terrified. If people find out that they had the opportunity to put Trump in prison and they didn't, their lives are over. So we'll see. No matter how much Donald Trump's defense tries to discredit his former lawyer, the fact remains that he lied to protect his client. When? Which one was the lie? Is he lying now about stealing the money? Is he lying on the stand now to protect himself? Did he lie to protect Trump? Why did he steal money from Trump and then lie to protect Trump? Was he hoping to steal money after the fact? Was he hoping Trump would give him a pardon? This guy has zero credibility, and he is clearly willing to lie. If your argument is he was lying to protect Trump, he's lying to save himself a job, and now he's selling Trump out. There's no credibility here. But sure, let's read the hilarious article. Let's be clear. Michael Cohen is a great witness against Donald Trump in the latter's ongoing trial. This is gaslighting. This is them desperately being like, please believe us. Please. We know he's a liar, but just act like it. The opposite is true. These people are psychotic. They say he's a great witness against Trump in the latter's ongoing trial and a terrible person to rely on for the prosecution's case. And a terrible person to rely on? Are you being serious? They're admitting that. As Trump's one-time lawyer and fixer, Cohen was in the middle of the alleged scheme undergirding the case against the former president at the time. He's also a known liar, having gone to federal prison for lying to Congress. Trump's defense lawyer, Todd Blanche, tried to seize the discrepancy during a cross-examination Tuesday, albeit in a wildly scattershot fashion. Questioning of Cohen has jumped around between lies, casting Cohen as a jilted as motivated to provide dirt to Trump to get out of prison early, and his podcast attacks. It's all an effort to say he can't be trusted. Blanche's scattered efforts aside, this line of attack might work out well for the defense in most cases. After all, if Cohen is the prosecution's best witness, poking holes in his credibility is an obvious strategy. But there's just one problem. As Cohen himself has said repeatedly under the people's questioning, the lies were told in the interest of protecting his client, the man currently on trial. Cohen was sentenced in 2018 after pleading guilty to a number of federal crimes, including, crucially, causing an unlawful corporate contribution to a candidate and making an excessive campaign contribution. Those two charges are key elements of the current allegations against Trump, who stands accused of falsifying business records to cover up the payments Cohen made to an adult film star. Blah, but we get it. As for the charges of lying to Congress, Cohen was brought in to testify in Capitol Hill as part of the Russia investigation. He falsely told the Senate Intelligence Committee that Trump had no business ties to Russia as of the 2016 primaries. And in fact, Cohen was pursuing Russian approval for a Trump tower in Moscow as late as June that year. He also lied about not traveling to Moscow to pursue that project when he had done so and suggested that Trump make the trip as well. His statements to the Senate, blah, blah, blah. We get it. Make your argument here. The roundabout nature of that order from Trump. Say, Mr. Trump did not directly tell me to lie to Congress. That's not how he operates. In conversations we had during the campaign, at the same time I was actively negotiating in Russia for him, he would look me in the eye and tell me there's no business in Russia, and then go out and lie to the American people by saying the same thing. Cohen told the Oversight Committee in a public hearing. In this way, he was telling me to lie. Or maybe he was telling you to stop the deal, you liar. Dude, if I'm talking with someone and they're like, I can go to Russia and negotiate a business deal. And I went, no, there's no business deal in Russia. Okay. Now let's do this. And then you go, got it. I will lie about it. Wait, what? In what? This dude is a scumbag. He would look me in the eye and say, in conversations during the campaign, at the same time I was actively negotiating Russia for him, he says there's no business in Russia. It sounds like Trump is telling Cohen as a straightforward, no. It's like, well, I can go negotiate in Russia for your tower. No, there's no business in Russia, okay? And then Cohen's like, got it. I'll keep doing that, and then I will lie about it. Get it? You have to prove. And Trump, okay, fine. If you want to argue that Trump was doing this to tell him to lie, you've actively just said it's your opinion. You have no proof. Trump never told him to lie. Cohen did it of his own volition. That's the admission. They say the roundabout nature of that order from Trump is important for understanding not only how the former president operates broadly, but also the specific difficulty that prosecutors have faced in this case. Imagine a world where you can literally present evidence where you're like, the president told me there was no business in Russia. And then I lied and carried out the business anyway. If you prosecute someone based on that, you're basically saying, if an innocent person says, do not rob that liquor store, and they went, I understood what he meant, wink, wink, and so I did. And now you're part of a conspiracy. I literally told him not to do it. That's the world they're trying to entertain. Let's jump over here. Look at this one. The New York Times, when Michael Cohen's lies help the case against Trump. Man, they are so insane. If Trump gets convicted here, it's only because the jury has Trump derangement syndrome or that they fear the far left. Is it possible to use a lie to illuminate the truth? If the lie is told by the serial liar Michael Cohen in the right context, the answer is yes. What? Credit the prosecution in the Trump felony trial for pulling off this tricky maneuver. On Monday, we finally got closer to a key factor in the case, campaign finance law. To convict Donald Trump of a felony, the jury must find that he falsified business records or directed that they be falsified with the intent to commit another crime. Trump need not be found guilty of any of those other crimes. In this case, it could be tax fraud, intervening in an election, or violating campaign finance laws. In order to convict him, but he needs to have the crime in mind in at least one of those areas. Late in the morning, Susan Hoffinger, a prosecution lawyer on her game, drew Cohen's attention to a letter written by his lawyer, Stephen Ryan, after the Stormy Daniels hush money story broke in Wall Street Journal. Cohen was still in Trump's camp at the time, telling the world that he had paid the $130,000 to Daniels on his own. In his letter, Ryan wrote, the payment in question does not constitute a campaign contribution. A lawyer, Stephen Ryan, said to Cohen, this is not a campaign contribution. Hoffinger asked, was that a true statement? Cohen, in his new polite incarnation, replied, no, ma'am. This told the jury, here goes Cohen lying again. In other words, because Cohen was such a known liar, it is more plausible than not that he was lying when he said the payment was not a campaign contribution to protect Trump and himself. Okay, Ryan wrote the payment does not constitute a campaign contribution. Then he lied when asked, was it a true statement? Basically, no, saying that it was a campaign contribution. He didn't say it wasn't. Ryan did, you moron. After a sidebar, Judge Merchan turned to the jury and repeated instructions he'd already given during direct examination, saying, he basically said, if Cohen's guilty, it doesn't mean Trump's guilty. The judge was basically saying to the jury, I know you may think these two guys both intended to commit this other crime, but you can't use Cohen's guilty plea to convict Trump. As Norm Eisen, an expert on campaigns finance law, told me during a break, the jury will listen to the judge, but that's like saying don't look at the elephant. To emphasize the point further, Hoffinger asked, did Mr. Trump approve the substance of these false statements by you? This brought another answer, yes, ma'am. The prosecution caught another break when Mershon refused to allow Bradley Smith, a Republican and former chair of the Federal Election Commission, to testify about his conservative interpretation of campaign laws. The judge said if he allowed that testimony, which the defense desperately wants, he would have to let the prosecution call an expert witness with his or her own opposing interpretation. Mershon concluded that as judge, it was his job and his job alone to interpret how campaign finance law should be regarded by the jury. All in all, it was an unsexy but significant win for the prosecution. You've not made your case. You've confused the issue, Jonathan Alter. He says Stephen Ryan wrote to Cohen, this payment does not constitute a campaign contribution. They then said it was Cohen who claimed it, but it was Ryan. This whole thing is a ridiculous and silly farce. Now, Trump had a bunch of supporters show up. Troy Nails wearing, of course, this silly tie with several images of Trump hugging the American flag on it. And I think what we can see here is the total breakdown of their actual case. But my friends, I must say, I think it's apparent to everybody there was never a case to begin with. We know for a fact there was no case to begin with. There's no underlying crime. They claim they don't need one. It's a felony because we said so. Cohen has a statement already. Let me pull this one up. In 2019, BuzzFeed News published a story claiming Trump ordered Cohen to lie to Congress. It prompted a firestorm of drama that prompted the normally tight-lipped Mueller to issue a denial. But in further testimony to a House committee, Cohen gave one of the sharpest views into how Trump operates. BuzzFeed News. Let's pull this story from BuzzFeed News. President Trump directed his attorney, Michael Cohen, to lie to Congress about the Moscow Tower project. I think I remember this story when we covered it. The Mueller report found Trump did not direct Cohen to lie. It's so fascinating. Why? Because Trump, it's just laughably insane. This is where we are. The fact that Trump told Cohen not to do business is proof he told him to lie. You have to be a special kind of stupid or evil to take this line of thinking. Let's say there's a world where there really is someone who operates this way. Hey, don't go and get a tower in Moscow. Wink. And then you decide, like, okay, we're going to prosecute this guy. You can't. That's the reality. That's the point of plausible deniability. That is the limits in our system. You cannot prosecute Trump for saying there is no business in Russia. Cohen is a guy who has claimed on numerous occasions he took action of his own volition for Trump. Now I get why Trump abandoned him. Why didn't Trump pardon the guy? Why isn't Trump trying to defend him? Because Cohen is a smarmy, lying, a troublemaker. So let me get this straight. Here's what I believe. Cohen is going to Russia trying to get a deal approved. Why? I'll tell you what makes sense. He wants to be able to go to Trump and be like, I got you. You could build a tower in Moscow. You could build a tower in Russia. I negotiated this for you. And then Trump goes, oh, wow, Michael, that's going to make us a lot of money. You're so great at your job. Why would Trump be relying on someone like Cohen for things like this? He wouldn't. I'm sorry. Let me just ask, is the art of the deal, Donald Trump writes this book, to send a low-tier lawyer to a foreign country to negotiate on your behalf? Now, don't get me wrong. If Trump already approved a deal and then asked a lawyer to handle the final paperwork, fine. But they don't have that. And Mueller said that didn't happen. So what it really sounds like is Cohen, once again, it's a pattern of behavior where he goes and takes things of his own volition. And in this instance, Cohen says, no, Trump never told me to lie. He said, there's no business in Russia, which, wink, wink, I get. No, you clearly don't. Oh, dude, I'm just imagining, imagine Trump. And he's like, we're going to run for office. We're going to be the best president. And, we're not going to do any business in these foreign countries. And then Cohen's like, Mr. President, Mr. Trump, I'm negotiating in Russia to get you a tower. And Trump goes, there is no business deal in Russia. Got it? Now, we're focused on this campaign. And then Cohen's like, got it. Wink. And then he leaves and he says, I'm going to lie. I don't understand why Trump, like, here's my point. If Mueller investigates this and finds Trump didn't actually instruct him to do this, if they found that Trump personally was actively in negotiating this tower and secured a deal, and then wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Cohen, there is no business in Russia. And we don't even know they actually said that. Why wouldn't they say, yeah, actually, Trump did? Trump already had the tower and Cohen was negotiating on his behalf. When Trump claimed there was no business in Russia and then Cohen lied about it, Trump was lying. Because the reality is, one, this is something Cohen is claiming. For all we know, Trump was like, oh, yeah, we were negotiating with Russia. That's it. You know, for all we know. This is the game they've decided to play. So I will stress this as the defense rests. Strong possibility, the jury will just convict because they hate Donald Trump. I'll leave it there. Next segment's coming up at 4 p.m. on the channel. Thanks for hanging out, and I'll see you all then.